Hi, Loic Hares here from Resilience Energy Technology. I know a number of you wanted to come out to our event last week, but due to the weather and the fact that it's in Watford, were unable to come. So I thought I'd take this opportunity to share with you the presentation I made into how we saw ourselves fit into the energy network of the future. As always, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to send me an email on funding@resilienceenergy.co.uk and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks. So this is a presentation on Resilience Energy solution and how it fits into the future of the energy network. I'm Loic Hares. I've been working in the energy industry for 10 years now, and in those 10 years we've seen a lot of change. With the introduction of all of these new smaller suppliers brought into the market by Ofgem to drive innovation in quite a stagnant market. As you can see from this picture from Uswitch, there's now so many suppliers and there's nearly 80 different companies a customer can, or B2B customer can choose from. But are we seeing any innovation come into the market? Now, I would argue that we are not. We're seeing some great brands emerge from the mix. And those brands are bringing with them great customer service, great customer interaction, and some great prices, but no innovation. And that's a real shame. So we started looking at the system differently, seeing how we can make our customers self-generating and therefore breaking the grip that the supplier has on those customers. Going through a period of massive electrification of our lifestyles, and this is going to carry on over the next 10 to 15 years. We want to make sure that this is done in a carbon neutral, green manner, putting the customer at the centre of the solution, ensuring that they are not only generating green electricity, but also maximising their savings to do so. So how do we do this? Our solution does it in 3 ways. Firstly, we install solar panels at our residents' houses. Now, if a customer already has solar panels, that's fantastic. We don't need to do this first step. Secondly, we install the right amount of battery storage to work with not only the solar panels installed at the customer's house, but also the customer's consuming behaviour. Lastly, our platform manages the interface between the home and the grid, ensuring that the customer always uses the electricity first, and only when he's not using the electricity does it go to the grid. We will learn the consumer's usage patterns and start to know when they're not using the electricity they have stored in the battery. We will then enable our partner, Kiwi Power, to use the spare capacity to generate them an income. The customer owns the battery, so they own 100% of the income for using that battery. Still want to see how our system differs? Well, we've pulled together this quick film to explain.
Get my shoes and out the door. 5, I'm alive. 6, 7, 8, feeling great. 9, gonna shine, life is good. I'm doing fine, 10, gonna do it right and do it again, yeah. I look into the sky with all the beautiful color, but there's more than just for me, so gonna share it with another. I got to show, to give, let out. I want to sing and shout. Take a look and see a beautiful morning that turns into a beautiful evening, and together make a beautiful life. And if you wanna see, then come along with me, that's right. And if you want a good tomorrow, it's pretty simple, gotta find a light to follow. And if you do, you have a future real bright. And it's a combination of consistency. Come on and sing, oh, 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 oh. Come on, come on, come on and sing, yeah. Come on, come on, come on and sing. Oh, 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 oh. Come on, come on, come on and sing, yeah. Come on, come on, come on and sing. With another sunrise, it's a brand new day, so gonna make a little list to keep the worries away. I gotta dance just a little bit, move to be free. Keep my head up, don't forget to be me. Like I won $1 million, like I hit the pay dirt. Gonna smile from ear to ear, the kind that makes your face hurt. And we'll laugh, jump, sing loud, not afraid to shout about being happy, living it out. Take a look and see a beautiful morning that turns into a beautiful evening. And and together make a beautiful life. And if you wanna see, then come along with me, that's right. And if you want a good tomorrow, it's pretty simple, gotta find a life to follow. And if you do, you have a future real bright. And it's a combination of consistency. Come on and sing, oh, 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 oh. Come on, come on, come on and sing, yeah. Come on, come on, come on and sing. Oh, 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 oh. Come on, come on, come on and sing, yeah.
Our app has three main functions. The first of which is to give the customer ability to monitor the whole system in one place. Here they're able to see generation, battery storage, how much the house is consuming, importing and exporting, all in one place rather than three places which the customer has to nowadays. It also acts as the management console for our system. Here the system learns the customer's behaviour and then matches this behaviour to the battery capacity and compares it to the usage that Kiwi Power has suggested for that period of time in order to generate income. Where the customer is not using the electricity stored, then Kiwi Power is able to use the system to generate the income. And lastly, it acts as the customer service portal for the customer. Instead of having to buy the solar panels, the battery, and the supply contract for electricity from three different places, the customer is able to purchase everything in one place, manage the installation in one place, and manage the system going forward in one place. If the customer has any issues with the solar, PV, battery, or the supply contract, they are able to go through our central customer service portal. Of course, our system is not going to stand still, and that is one of the plus points about what we're trying to develop, is that our system will constantly evolve with changing regulation and market conditions to ensure that we're always maximising the savings to the customer. Now, to do so, we have a product roadmap, and this is a product roadmap for not only what the platform is able to connect into, but also how the app works in terms of customer features. So the first thing the system will integrate into is a smart water switch. Now this will enable us to very quickly divert electricity from the battery to the water tank, so that on very sunny days, instead of exporting the electricity to the grid after the battery is full, we will be able to also heat the water. And you can imagine that a customer will receive a text message during the afternoon saying, "Great news, your battery is now fully charged. Now we are diverting the electricity to your hot water tank so that you can not only enjoy the free electricity when you get home, but also free hot water so that you can bathe your children for free this evening." Secondly, we're going to integrate into electric vehicle in-home chargers. This will give us the ability to ensure that when the lifestyles of our customers become even further electrified with the introduction of EV cars, we will still be able to ensure that their savings are maximised in the way the system works, ensuring that the car is not charging at peak import tariff times, ensuring that when it's better to charge the car from the solar, it is doing so. And we'll be able to build up a knowledge of the usage patterns of the customer and make sure that the system as a whole is working to the customer's benefit. Lastly, we will look to integrate into electric heatings such as heat pumps and electric panel heaters, and then our main goal is to ensure that we're ready to support a peer-to-peer energy network of the future. Now, in terms of the app functionality, we quickly want to ensure that the app is customer ready, so that it has the customer service functionality built into it. It is able to access historic data and demonstrates always how much savings the customer is getting. We will then look to ensure that it has push notifications, but we want to introduce very quickly an element of gamification into our app so that people who live in the same area are able to see what kind of savings other people are getting and how they are performing. And we can start giving them useful hints to help them save even more electricity. Now, this is paving the way to the peer-to-peer energy network of the future. Lastly, we want to ensure that switching can happen very quickly for our app so that every 6 months we're looking to make sure that not only the import tariff is the best for the customer, but also the new supplier-led generation tariffs are working for the customer. What does the current network look like? It's a very static network where the National Grid main role is to make sure that what's going into the system matches what's going out of the system. Now, when there's big football games or tennis games, you tend to have a very large offtake at one point, and that tends to line up with when the last penalty is taken and everybody goes to their kitchen for a cup of tea. In the 1990 World Cup penalty shootout against Germany, we saw the biggest ever peak power demand of 2.8 thousand megawatts. Now, in this instance, National Grid would use something like De Norwig in Wales to quickly access a huge amount of power onto the grid to match the massive instant take-up. That's quite an inflexible way of using the system. You can imagine that on a very sunny day when there's a huge amount of solar PV flooding the network, National Grid has not many options to suddenly match that generation with demand. Now, our distributed generation and storage solution gives National Grid another option. We have the ability to store some electricity. So if the network suddenly gets flooded with solar power, we can store that solar power in our batteries and the customer can benefit from cheap electricity. In the other way round, if suddenly at the end of a football game our customers turn on the kettle, they're using power stored from our battery, not the grid. Therefore, you won't see peaks such as the one in the 1990s happen in the future. And that's what we're trying to build towards. Futurists in our industry say that we're going to be moving towards a peer-to-peer energy network in the very near future. This will be a network where if one consumer is generating electricity from the sun and his battery is full, his neighbour who is at home during the day using electricity will be able to buy his surplus electricity from his neighbour instead of importing it from the expensive grid. Now that's a great image of the future. But in order to get to that future electricity network, we need to have distributed energy and storage spread out over the network so that people who are looking into blockchain technology to enable the smart transactions, to enable that peer-to-peer energy network, will have that distributed network spread out over the UK in order to overlay their technology on top of. And that's where we see ourselves fitting into that network of the future. We're not providing the trading platform. We're leaving that up to people like Power Ledger and Verve, who have been doing that for a while now. Instead, we're focusing on making sure that the network actually exists to be able to do that peer-to-peer energy trading on top of our network. So our vision of the future is for our power stations to be spread out throughout the UK and abroad, and for all of our customers to be able to maximise their savings, firstly. Secondly, be able to be generating an income from the grid when their battery is not needed by them. And thirdly, be able to trade electricity between themselves, their friends, their neighbours and their local communities to better benefit not only themselves but also the UK as a whole. And that's when we'll be moving towards that carbon neutral energy generation future that we all want to get to. So thank you very much for listening to this today, and I hope you feel like you see where our system fits into that future vision of the electricity network. Here's my contact details. Please feel free to contact me directly. And I hope that you're able to join our charge to make our system the future of the energy network. Thank you very much.